Once in a while, we all have a bad day. Sometimes it's because, most of the time it's because we're out of sync with each other, whether it's in the office, whether it's at home, the neighborhood, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's unintentional. Sometimes it is intentional. As my mother used to say, that little red streak starts coming up at your back. You start doing things. Well, Jesus is having a bad day today. This event that he's going through right now. His relatives are out to seize him. His faith community thinks he's Satan. And he can't eat because the crowds are even coming. It's not a good day. What was happening, though, was disunity prevailing in all aspects. And that must have pained him, this disunity. Imagine having the leaders now get after you, your family getting after you. If the relationship with God is love, as the scriptures constantly say to us throughout all the texts, then disunity is the antithesis of God. And this might help us understand the meaning of the gospel reference to blaspheme against the Holy Spirit, as Jesus says, cannot be forgiven. Why? The Holy Spirit is God's agent of forgiveness. Remember in the scriptures, receive the Holy Spirit. Those whose sins you forgive are forgiven, and those that you hold back are held back. And if you have gone to confession and listened, you heard the priest say the words of absolution. The God the Father has poured out the Holy Spirit among you for the forgiveness of sin. And I absolve you of the Father, Son, Spirit. The agent of forgiveness. And he sent that for us. You cannot be forgiven when you reject the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is the one doing the forgiving. It's like saying, I hate soap. You can't be clean then. You're rejecting now the very means of forgiveness, if you will. And that disunity tears us apart. It tears us apart from ourselves, from others, and from God. And when we blaspheme the Holy Spirit, who is God's unifying force, when we blaspheme or reject that, when we cultivate division or independence over unity and connectedness, we are blaspheming. We heard in the Genesis story, the evil one, imaged now through that serpent, a creation of God. And the evil one wants to take down all of God's creation, you and me, all humanity, and will do whatever he can to bring about that separation. And he thrives off that division. In Genesis, we heard Adam eats the apple of disobedience, and what's the immediate result? Separation. And for the first time, God and Adam are detached. In fact, what does the Lord say? Adam, where are you? And Adam was afraid. He said, I've hidden myself in the garden. He was afraid. That sense now of rejecting God's mercy, God's love for him, God, the bedrock of unity, and now he blames his sin on another creation of God, the woman. In essence, he's really blaming God. The foundational story of our faith tradition reminds us that we were all created for unity. It's in our DNA. Unity is the very essence now of who we are, what we're made for, and to which we ultimately will return. So when Jesus replies, who are my brother and my sisters, my mother? His intention was not to slight the family, but to widen the circle of connection. It was a revolutionary thought to shift from bloodline to general relationships. Jesus came among us to teach us the circle of God's love that encompasses everyone, making us all that family. Our job is to widen that circle until no one is left standing outside of it. And so the question from the gospel today is there anyone in your life for whom you are divided? Are there groups of people with whom you would rather not associate? Is there sin in your heart that disconnects you from God? Amid such disunity now, the Lord calls out, "Where are you?" And Jesus, that God in flesh, came to rescue us from the evil one and unify us back to the source of all life, God. And this unifying work is the gift of the Holy Spirit and the end goal for each one of us. And so as you come to the altar today at Mass, that altar which the church says is a sign of the church's unity, all of us, come to that table with outstretched arms. And I pray that you will recognize that the Eucharist, Jesus' presence, body, soul, and divinity, is the sacrament of unity. That circle reminds us of that too as well. Blessed, broken, and shared with all of us so that we could come back together to be made whole and continue the work of making the world whole. And so may God continue that work within each one of us as we journey forward.